Meet Reed Lance Rosenthal, rancher, #1 best-selling award-winning author, and unabashedly, unapologetically on the right side of the outstanding issues of our generation. But don't try to fence him in. Sometimes his positions will surprise you, because Reed is definitely his own man, with his own opinions. You might love him, you might hate him, but you won't be able to stop listening. Step over to the right side with Reed.
Howdy, listeners and viewers, coast to coast, the Gulf to Canada, and around the globe. Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side Radio and the Cowboys Take. Rumble, Brighteon, X, Gab, Truth, Gag Me, YouTube, Google. We'll talk about some censorship going on today. And I see my microphone is drifting down on me a little bit. There we go. All right. So, as promised, I'm bringing you kind of the hot and heavy from the battlefield of the election, and it is raging everywhere. Boy, hold on to your hat as I tell you the games that are being played out there, both in court and in censorship, and, of course, at the ballot box and the polling place and the machines. Oh, and the registrations and the folks who are not supposed to be on voter rolls but aren't, and the interference by the DOJ. We'll get into that just here in a minute. Now, look, one of the things that we want to do is we want to be aware of this. We want to keep our eyes open. In fact, some of the stories I want to bring you are electors, people like you, voters who notice something. They noticed, they said something. See something, say something. And there's been people caught, and that's great. Of course, you know, there's a lot slipping under the wire, which makes it even more important that we all exercise our right, our constitutional duty, in fact, to go out and vote and register and make sure 10 other people vote, and they each make sure 10 other people vote, and on and on. I'm heartened to see, and I'm not the only one, but I'm heartened to see that people are taking my advice to vote early. I'm going to tell you some stories here today about what's happening with people who mailed in their ballots. I warned you, you know. Once stupid, twice a fool, folks. Remember 2020, remember 2022. You can avoid all that. And there's weather coming into kind of the Midwest and the Northeast here toward the end of the week and over the weekend. Look, don't get caught with your proverbial voting pants down. Get your ballot in. Go down and vote. If you're doing it absentee, drop it off, okay? Spend the extra few minutes, spend the extra gallon of gas, and make sure your ballot gets to where it's supposed to go, and hopefully in a relatively safe place, depending upon what blue state, blue county, red state you happen to be in. But I digress. So let's start off with our founder's quote, shall we? This is Benjamin Rush, and he is terrific. One of the founders. We haven't talked about him much. Guy had cojones of steel. Where there is no law, there is no liberty. How true. And where the laws of the land and the constitutional privileges afforded to citizens, that's right, citizens who are legal residents of the state and the county and the precinct in which they vote, when they're ignored or when they are subverted or when they are, shall we say, manipulated or attempted to be cast aside with illegal actions, that is an attack on our liberty. It is an attack on this country and an attack on the Constitution. And if that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will. Maybe sending your tax money to, you know, distant planets around the globe, or for graft and corruption, which flows back to politicians like, you know, Joe Biden in China. And it sounds like Tim Waltz in China, too. I'm not going to have time to get into that today, but all sorts of things are coming to light about Tim Waltz's association with the CCP. Oh, and his very close association with a daughter of a really high-ranking CCP official. You can find that on DuckDuckGo and Brave.com. I doubt you'll find it on Google because they, folks, are blocking anything they don't want you to see. All right, let's talk about Well, actually, I'll tell you what. Let's do a ranch story, shall we? So yesterday, the big storm bearing into the Laramie Mountains of Wyoming, 10 to 20 inches of snow, depending upon where you're supposed to be. And our upper ranch headquarters, which I have procrastinated closing up and winterizing, needed to be closed up and winterized, because once the first big snow sets up there, we might not see that place for 5 or 6 months. 20-foot drifts between here and there, and no way to get there unless you happen to have a tracked vehicle, which we don't have, which very few people have. So 7:30 yesterday morning. I mean, I have all sorts of stuff to do here on the headquarters ranch. I'm kind of running it, shall we say, without the usual amount of help that I have. And I bundled out of here and flew, well, as much as you can fly on a rutted dirt road, up in the snow, which had already started, up to the headquarters. And I rushed around up there for 2.5 hours covering, the sofa and the chair and making sure all the stuff was clean and bundling up whatever laundry had to be brought down, cleaned, and put away, nicely folded, probably not by me, for bringing it up next spring. Spring being late April, early May, if we're lucky. Sometimes it's not till June. Other years it's, March. But I don't think it's going to be that kind of year. So I run around and I turned off the water and I drained all the water lines and I unscrewed the Rene basin that holds the filter, because I didn't do that one year and it froze and cracked, and blew out the shower lines, which always seems to freeze over each winter, much to our chagrin, and put the ATV away and took the battery out, and on and on and on. It's a whole list. Turned off the gas, turned off the propane tanks, and I bundled out of there about 11:30, quarter to 12, and zipped down the hill as much as you can on a rutted dirt road. And the snow was increasing and blowing and starting to drift, and I made it by the chin of my chinny chin. So the moral of the story is, when you know something has to be done, try not to procrastinate till the very last minute, because literally, folks, if I had waited another couple hours, I probably wouldn't have gotten up there. And it might not have been shut down, and it might have continued to hum along and run until it ran out of propane and the lines froze and who knows what else went wrong until May. And that would have been a very, very sad event. So, you got to do it. Get her done, partner. Get her done. And right now, what we got to get her done on is this election. Let me tell you what's going on around the country. This is, by the way, this is the tip of the iceberg. It's really distressing. It really is. Okay. In Arizona, so Stephen Miller, America First Legal, has brought a lawsuit. He has all sorts of stuff that's going on there. They're starting to make some headway, but this is really, really, really close to the election. So Maricopa County refuses to maintain the mandatory chain of custody for ballots in 2022, which screwed up 25,000 votes. Maricopa County ignores mandatory. This is all mandatory. This is the law, right? Remember the founder's quote I just gave you? Maricopa County ignores mandatory reconciliation procedures to track each ballot printed or issued to a voter. In other words, remember, Democrats are interested in ballots, folks. They're not interested in voters. So they don't like to do anything that tracks a ballot to a voter, or at least even says, okay, 1,000 people voted and we only have 1,000 ballots. That's, not their cup of tea, okay? Arizona law requires ballot drop boxes to be staffed by at least 2 election officials, positioned close enough to view each person who deposits ballots into it. Maricopa County maintains unstaffed ballot boxes. Oh, what could go wrong? So those are just 3 things that they are suing on, and they're getting a little traction, but we're down to the last week. Folks, we got 6 days left. That's all there is. The other thing that's going on in Arizona, 218,000 218,000 folks who are suspect of being on the registration rolls improperly. Illegal aliens, dead people, people who've moved away. And Republican officials and attorneys have asked for that list so they can compare it to the voter rolls. Oh, Arizona, Democratic cartel-driven, cartel-linked governor, lieutenant governor, and AG. Nope, they just can't find that list, folks. They just can't find the list. 218,000 voters. Arizona was decided by 12,000 or a little bit less votes in 2020, just to remind you. All right, Nevada. This is unbelievable. The state Supreme Court has ruled, and it's being appealed. Once again, there's 6 days left, so it's an emergency appeal. But the state Supreme Court has ruled that absentee ballots that are received up to 3 days past Election Day, in other words, 3 days late, even if the date on the ballot is unclear or the postmark date is unclear, must be counted. Wow. So that means you can find out what's going on Election Day and the next day, making sure you smudge the postmark date, mail your ballot in or bring it down or whatever and get it counted. Wow. By the way, the gentleman who's running down there, Sam, I'm just going to use his first name. He's the Republican, wounded vet, horribly disfigured by fire. The guy is great. Support him. He's a hero. He deserves your support, not the crooked Democrat who's currently in office. And by the way, so on therightsideradio.com, go there, click on recommended contributions or take action, all sorts of multipliers, the candidates that we think you really ought to push with that are in very close races, Hovde in Wisconsin, Sam Brown in Nevada, Kerry Lake in Arizona, and on and on. Send them some last minute money, folks. This is when you get the people on the ground. This is when you start knocking on doors. This is when you get people to the polls. This is really important. Okay, how you finish up an election means everything. And right now it's about turnout. You got to see what the Democrats are doing to get their useful idiots out to vote. All right. Montana. They caught a paid Democratic staffer. This is a staffer paid by the Democratic Party tampering with partially filled ballot boxes at polling places. That's right. Kind of, should we say, changing the number of ballots in the box and other assorted nastiness. Yes, that's Montana, and I'm sure there's other stuff going on in Montana too. In Florida has sued Harris Biden. Good for them. I really like it. I really like those guys. DeSantis rocks down there. His general surgeon rocks. They all rock. And so they've sued Harris Biden because they're trying to find out who the non-citizens are on their voting rolls, on their registration rolls. And that list is maintained by DHS, by law. Well, DHS, our friend Mayorkas, who really, really, really needs a treason trial, along with a bunch of other people, they can't find the list, folks. God, we just don't know where we put that list of illegal aliens in Florida. So they are now getting sued. Expect an emergency ruling on that, I hope, before Election Day in Florida. Pennsylvania, all sorts of games. So now in districts that are red districts, heavily red, it seems that the polls, when they close, they're closing at 4:30. 4:30. I think it's supposed to be 7 last time I checked. And if you're in line, this is absolute law throughout the land. If you are in line at the time the polls close, you get to vote. They can't close the polls and say, we're done for today, so sorry. No. Well, in Pennsylvania, in some districts, they actually have police out there telling people to leave at 4:30 in the afternoon because the polls are closed. The video, I have all these articles are on the website under election fraud, rat-a-tat-tat, the election fraud page, which is a special link, the really good videos under the audio bar. I mean, don't take my word for it. Watch for yourself, listen for yourself, read for yourself. So there's police out there telling people to leave at 4:30 because, you know, it's a very complicated process and it's very crowded and it's grueling. It's grueling. Oh, really? I don't think I've read that in any statute anywhere. Remember the founders quote today, right? Where there is no law, there is no liberty. Yes. All right, so they're trying to get that straightened out there in Pennsylvania. But that's not all, okay? The Soros-installed DA there in Pennsylvania, Larry Krasner in Philadelphia, he is now suing Elon Musk because Elon's putting money into the campaign, including this $1 million swing state voter deal, which, by the way, another court has already ruled is perfectly legal. And he's calling it an illegal lottery. Okay, so, you know, lawfare and and games. Remember Arizona in 2022 when 17 polling places in red districts, wow, the machines didn't work. You can't vote here today. You got to go somewhere else. Well, this is kind of a play on that, right? I'm sure you're going to see it elsewhere too. All the more reason to go vote early. All right, Virginia. This is good news. So, as I told you, they found 3,300 self-admitted. Now, this is important. Self-admitted illegal aliens on voter registration rolls in VA. I'm sure there's some they didn't find. And Youngkin, great governor, directs his staff to remove them. The DOJ sues to stop this. It's unbelievable. I mean, Merrick Garland, you need to be on trial with Mayorkas. And an Obama judge, unbelievable, says, oh, no, you can't remove them because you're within 90 days of the election, and that's a systemic change to the voter registration rolls. Wait a minute. Didn't he ever hear the legal concept of fruit of the poisonous tree? The poisonous tree is the fact that you are here illegally and you are not a citizen, and it's unconstitutional on both counts for you to vote. But no, we're gonna fall back on this technicality that if you take this illegal alien who's not a citizen off the rolls, it's a systemic change within 90 days of the election. Unbelievably, an appeals court upheld the lower court decision. But good news, just this morning, the Supreme Court of the United States said no, fruit of the poisonous tree, folks. These people can't vote in Youngkin. You can take them off the voter rolls. So that's great, and that's going to play out in several other states too. So that's a big victory. I mean, why it would even have to be fought is beyond me. Obviously, these people didn't listen to Benjamin Rush's founder's quote. Then in Oregon and Washington, Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, it seems that they're using incendiary devices to blow up or burn ballot boxes in, red districts. Oh my, I'm so surprised. I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. So there's been two of those. They got the fires out pretty quick based on the news stories I've read. Once again, they're on the website, on the rightsideradio.com. But hundreds of ballots were ruined, and they're trying to, quote unquote, remember, they're both blue states, to contact the voters so that they can cast another ballot. Wow, isn't that heartwarming? Colorado's gotten so crooked. It's just terrible. Mesa County, which is a red area out there by Grand Junction, great country, great people. They have found so far 12 ballots that were intercepted on their way to voters, right? Colorado mails ballots to everybody. Oh, well, how convenient is that for fraud? And these people were tracking their ballots. Good for them. Okay, this is the see something, say something rule, folks. See something, say something. You know, like Smokey the Bear says, it's up to you to prevent voter fraud or something along those lines. So these 12 ballots, it's found that they never received them, but their vote was cast. And by the way, it wasn't cast for Trump. Are you surprised? So they're tracking all that down. And then Gina Griswold, the Secretary of State of Colorado, who is as crooked and as slimy and as nasty and as communist as they come, she just sent the poor gal who used to be the clerk up there in Mesa County to jail for nine years. I'm sure that the appeal will get her out, but that was for exposing Gina's election fraud in the last election, 2022. We'll go into that story another day. But Gina Griswold says, oh, we're doing everything we can to safeguard the integrity of our elections. All the nonsense that they spoon feed up your butthole, okay? And that's just not kind of the way it is. And then she said she's going to launch an investigation. Well, the Mesa County folks said, no, you aren't. All you're going to do if you launch an investigation is interfere with our investigation, which is your intent. So there's a big brouhaha down there in Colorado. And, oh my God. They've also found ballots, by the way, that came in, and this was in blue areas, that the signatures didn't match, right? Signatures have to match on an absentee ballot, supposedly. Fulton County kind of ignores that down in Georgia, and I guess these counties in Colorado do. An election judge said, oh, you can count them anyway. Well, the election judge has now been removed. There's no further word on what happened to him, her, whatever it is. And those ballots are all being, should we say, not reversed, because Gina Griswold has determined, our friend Gina down there, has determined that the law says that once they're cast and once they're tabulated, they can't be changed, they can't be removed. Really? Doesn't that go back to the fruit of the poisonous tree argument again on a different level? I think so. So we'll see what happens down there in Colorado with all the games and stuff that are being played. You folks in Colorado that listen to me, and I know there's a pile of you, see something, say something. Track your ballot. Vote early. Bring your ballot in person down to the place. Get proactive, folks. Get involved. This is your country, your life, your liberty, your financial future, and your family security, okay? Oh, you'll love this. In that Colorado deal, Gina has said, well, to be fair, we're going to let the people whose ballots were stolen, and we're going to let the people where there wasn't a signature and they got counted anyway, we're going to let them vote again. What do you mean, vote again? They never voted to begin with, Gina. And so now you're allowing, let's say, a Trump supporter to vote to cancel out an illegal alien or who knows whose vote for Kamala Harris. So that's not a positive effect, is it? It's a cancellation effect. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then, big tech is weighing in on this, as I told you they would, and as they have been for the last 6 months. Check your spam file, folks. You'll see all the stuff that Google and the rest of the crowd has relegated to spam that you ought to be seeing. Check your spam file. Like when you get you'll be shocked is what you'll be. So FB, remember Zuckerberg promised that FB wouldn't do any more censorship and blah, 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 blah at the congressional hearings. I brought you that story. Well, FB is disabling, should we say, right-leaning, even centrist journalist pages left and right. As two examples, the UR Central site, which is a really centrist, it's very good. It's a really centrist publication. I mean, they present everything fair and square, both sides. You get to decide. Well, wow, their page is down. And Western Journal, right, which is right-leaning, an excellent paper, by the way, their site is down. And scores of others, according to posts which are suddenly appearing on X, where Elon at least maintains the integrity of free speech. The First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. In South Carolina, another piece of good news, the ACLU, our friends, the Friends of America and the Friends of Freedom, and the friends of at least centrist or right-wing causes. The ACLU sued South Carolina to allow 17-year-olds to vote. Never mind, that's not the law. Who cares about that? Remember our founders quote. And a judge just said, no, not going to do it. 17-year-olds can't vote. Good for him. And then, unfortunately, the Supreme Court of the United States has disallowed, in other words, rejected, RFK's request to be taken off the ballot as a candidate in 2 swing states, Michigan and Wisconsin. So unfortunately, some votes are going to be siphoned from Trump to RFK, but there'll probably be some votes siphoned from Kamala to RFK too. I mean, who knows how that will turn out? Would have been a much cleaner deal if he could have just been allowed to get off the ballot, but that's not to be. Last 2 items here, actually last 3 items. And it really kind of ties into the election and it ties into where this country is right now. Did you know that President Cadaver, also known as Biden, also known as Obama's 3rd term, he called everybody who supports Trump, I'm not making this up, the articles, the videos are on the website, garbage. If you are the 100 million people who support the Constitution, little earthquake there, who support the Constitution, or Donald Trump, or his policies, even if you don't like Donald Trump, you are garbage, folks. That's what you are. You're garbage. You're not Americans. You're just garbage. You're refuse. That'll tell you a little bit about their mentality. I told you, they don't like you. They're out for you. You better get out and vote, or they just might get you. And then New York State, Kathy Hochul, she's such a gem, that governor up there. She's just gagged me. They have voted to award illegal aliens. Remember, it's breaking the state's budget and New York City's budget. They're going to give every illegal alien in New York $15,000 of your tax money, by the way. $2.1 billion. Now, that doesn't piss you off and get you to the polls. I don't know what will, because the next thing, if you don't get to the polls, will be reparations. Yeah. Trust me. Mark my words on that. And then the very last thing, okay? In California, and this is really good news, okay? And this goes to the COVID deal. I've been telling you folks, if you have a claim, bring it. It is the American thing to do, and these people will continue to pull this illegal, unconstitutional stuff against your health and against your other rights if you don't stop them. It's up to you, okay? Nobody else. Nobody else is going to do this. If you have a claim, you need to bring it. There's attorneys that will handle it, and by the way, a lot of these are being adjudicated in favor of the claimants. I'm about to give you an example. And attorneys will take it on a contingency. It won't cost you a dime, not a dime. Bring your claim, bring it. So there was a number of folks in the rapid transit department out there in California who lost their jobs because they refused to take the jab because they thought the mandate was improper and illegal, which the Supreme Court later ruled that it was. And every single one of them last week got awarded $1 million, every one of them. $1 million. You think it's worth bringing your claim? Hope so. But for right now, before you bring your claim, you can do that next week. You get out and vote this week. And if you don't make it this week for some reason, make sure you vote on election day, the day before election day, whatever. This is a big deal. There is no tomorrows. We're not going to get a second chance at this. If these people get back into power, well, we will rue the day, as will the Constitution, as will the 10 important ingredients of the Bill of Rights. Every single one of them will be withered away, as will our Supreme Court, as will our faith in institutions, as will our taxpayer dollars, which will be shelled out hither, yither, and yon to illegal aliens within this country and illegal people outside of this country. It's up to you. Nobody else is going to do it. Pass this link on to friends and family and whoever you can. If there's other shows like this that you watch, pass their links on. Information is key, which is exactly why big tech is trying to censor it, folks. Information is your friend. Knowledge is power. Stand up. Get off the couch. Let's do this. Let's get her done. Kind of like the ranch story. No procrastination. This is Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side Radio and the Cowboys Take. Keep the wind at your back. I'll be talking to you probably at least one more time before the election and bringing you up to date on the lawfare, warfare, and election ballot boxing that's going on around the country. Remember, see something, say something. Keep your eyes open. Go America.
Please remember, if you've missed any shows, just click on Show Archive and you'll find all of his shows. We look forward to seeing you here again next week for another episode of Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side.